Welcome to the Post-Human Podcast.
So today's guest, the creator and head trainer of the Healthy Movement Blueprint, Boomer Perrault. Damn it, I messed it up. I did fuck it up again. How's it going, sir? We did this prior pre-show and I knew I'd mess it up. It's an interesting name. How's it going there, Boomer?
It's going well, man. I think you were close enough, and you definitely get an A for effort.
Thank you. It's a tendency I tend to do even before the show, where I'm like, "Is this what it is?" And yeah, that's cool. And then 10 seconds later, I've slipped my brain. What is the origins of the name? It's very interesting. Just before we continue.
The first name?
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is actually a pretty interesting story. So, it was actually not my birth given name.
I would have imagined.
It was a legal name change. So, with American football, there was a quarterback named Boomer Esiason.
Oh wow.
We were both lefty, and we both had, when I had hair at the time, when I was much younger, some poofy blonde hair. So my dad gave me the nickname Boomer after the quarterback. And I think probably now at this point, maybe 3 years ago, so somewhat recent, I'm 29, I was like, you know what? Like, I like that more than my birth given name, and I changed it to Boomer.
It's a great name. I mean, when I first contacted you, or you contacted me, I was like, Boomer, wow, I've got to really get to the origins of that name. I mean, I couldn't have imagined a parent calling it a child, which is why I was like, there's got to be a story behind it. You look good for 29, man. You look pretty good for 29.
I appreciate it. I try to keep, care of myself.
So let's actually talk about what you do. Obviously, the Healthy Movement Blueprint. Most of what you do is you help people with mobility. From what I get the grasp of, in terms of people that are in the office space or that sort of field. What made you sort of get into that?
Yeah. So when I was probably 19 or so, my whole life I played basketball. That was like my sport. That's what I did. When high school ended and I wasn't playing basketball as much, that's when I started to get into lifting. And like most guys, and I'm girls as well, around that age, you start to lift and you're like, okay, well, I want to look good for whatever gender I'm attracted to. So that's kind of how it started. And then also, like a lot of younger trainers, I was like, oh, well, I've seen some success. This has worked for me. I enjoy it. So I guess that means I can be a personal trainer.
Yep.
So I ended up becoming a trainer, and I was actually not a very good one. And so that was back then. So I ended up choosing a different career path for a number of years. And then a couple of years ago, I was like, you know what, like, this is my passion. I've learned so much over these last, in my 20s, really, because around like 22, 23 is when I decided to go a different direction. I've learned so much on my own and then through certifications. Let me try this again. So this time I, focused more so on, as you said, that mobility side. What I really do is help people that work desk jobs get out of pain and get in better shape. So I got a bit more focused with it. I'm a bit smarter, just like I said, through the education, but also just from getting older. Most people are pretty dumb when they're 20 years old compared to 28, 29. So that was pretty much. It started with just a passion of fitness, and then it turned into a passion of helping other people. And then, of course, with everything going on with COVID and lockdowns now, most people's health has just completely gone to shit.
Yep.
And at least in the United States, there's been almost zero help from mainstream media and the government, or a guidance, I should say, of how to actually make yourself healthier. Everything they're talking about is the vaccine, the mask, lockdown. It's not that those things can't be beneficial, but it's not actually helping people get healthier themselves.
They're not talking about, there's a lot of benefits to just getting outside and actually walking and doing some running and some aerobic exercises and, getting your BMI at a steady level. And supplements that you can take, they're not very rarely brought up unless you're listening to certain podcasts. Uh,
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that's why I decided to start hopping on podcasts in this last few months because, like, you know what? If the people that have the loudest voice aren't actually helping people with more than essentially, at least in again, everything I talk about mainly being the United States because that's where I'm from, so that's where I know
well,
most. But
I can relate,
even in
and I can
yeah,
relate
yeah.
being in the
Most
UK.
most places are similar. Most places are similar, but the whole health industry here is all about. It's really about keeping people sick. It's treating symptoms and not causes of symptoms. And so, obviously, being out of shape is not a cause of COVID, but most people that are being
Yep.
negatively affected by COVID are, yes, elderly people, but also people that have a lot of underlying health conditions.
Yep.
And that's how they've treated dealing with COVID for the most part. So that's why I was like, let me start hopping on podcasts and actually help people um, get themselves in at least the right direction of how to get in better shape. So if you do come across contracting the virus, now you will at least be better off dealing with it. And of course, outside of COVID, just it's always better to be healthier. You feel better, you look
Yeah.
better, and life.
Well, I mean, I've been training for years, and you know, I mean, people always get skeptical when I say this, but I just at the very start of COVID, I got ill twice. My whole family, we all got really ill, and it was literally just before it could become mainstream news. But if you look into it, it was around a little bit before then, and there is cases over places, and it just wasn't recognised for what it was. And I think that a lot of people, probably in the UK, did maybe get it about that time too. I had a few friends that were really ill. We all just got sick as fuck, and it was like the next thing that come along was COVID, and we're like, was it? You know, and just didn't know. Still don't know. Like, still don't really know. It's the thing with COVID is it's just talked about so much that it's just hard to get any sort of truth out of it. Most of it's just always talking about the vaccines rather than the origins, and even then, when news comes out about that, it's just buried with something else, and it's tricky. No one's really talking about getting healthy. I've had a lot of junk food and shit during the pandemic, quite a lot, and
Yeah,
it's not really good. I'm.
that's what happens
I mean,
when you shut people down and isolate them. That you start to you move less, you start to make poor nutrition choices, and then of course the mental aspect is a
oh, the men.
massive one as well.
Oh
What it
yeah,
does to people's mental health.
the mental side of it is what. To be honest, I think a lot of it. The people that were panic buying, a lot of that's all mental problems. I believe. There was no real reason. It's happened recently with this gas shortage in the UK. People were going out buying mad amounts of petrol. Well, it's give it a couple of days and the prices will be back to normal, and you're just stuck with a bunch of petrol in your shed. And that's the realistic point of it. Fair enough with toilet paper, but if you're going out and stacking gallons of petrol, it's not really a great sign.
Mm-hmm.
You know what?
No, it's true.
I mean, I started my podcast during COVID, and even now, I get a couple of back problems here and there. I should probably get a better chair. But what sort of main advice do you give to podcasters that have to occasionally sit in a chair for 3 hours potentially?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, like I said, the main demographic of people I work is people, of course, I say with desk jobs, but that could be, just people that sit a lot. And what happens when you sit, especially in the types of chairs that we have, especially people that like to sit on their comfy couches, which are the absolute
Yeah,
worst thing
no,
to
I'm
sit
not.
on. But
Luckily, I've not got one of
uh,
them.
yeah, yeah. But what happens is our hip flexors get incredibly, incredibly tight. And then our upper back, our thoracic spine, thoracic region gets very stiff as well. And so very often people end up with some type of low back pain. And it's because so this is what I often tell people. Our hips, our low back, and our upper back are all supposed to be mobile. We're supposed to be able to move from all three. But when we sit a lot and then the hips and the upper back get stiff, what happens is our low back tends to start to compensate by doing a lot of the movement for those other areas. So any type of twisting motion like this,
Yeah.
I'm just twisting back and forth for people just listening. Um, that should be coming from the upper back, it's now we're twisting from our low back. Whenever you are supposed to be doing some type of movement from the hips, which is, anytime you're, say, going to pick something up off the ground, where, you move from the hips and the knees to get down there. A lot of people are now keeping the legs straight and just bending, rounding from the back to get there. Not that those movements are bad. Again, we're supposed to be able to move from all areas. It's a problem when we're only moving from the low back. And so one of the best things you can do is optimize those movement patterns by, one, just being more aware of how, I'll put quotes on it, how you're supposed to move. Again, there's no right way to move, but optimize those movement patterns. And one of the best ways to do that is really just mobilize your hips and mobilize your upper back. Most, whether it's low back pain or any type of pain, most of the issues come down to mobility restrictions, some type of imbalance, some type of weakness. And like I said, those faulty movement patterns. So in a very general sense, just getting those hips mobile and getting that upper back, that thoracic region mobile, will help a lot of people with a lot of different issues they have, especially back issues.
I find that, one of the main people that I know that get it are truck drivers, like lorry drivers, just because they're sat constantly in the same position all day and then like hunched over almost, and that's kind of, even when I'm podcasting, I tend to haunch over a lot myself, and it's something that I need to get out of the habit of. Just because it does cane your back after a while. You don't quite feel it until maybe the next day in the evening. You go, what have I been doing here? And then you realise that the day prior you'd been sat in some ridiculous haunched over position for 10 hours or something stupid. But one thing that people that aren't even aware of is how they walk as well. Sometimes I walk terrible, just because I've got like a fucked up 3-toed foot, and I've got, it's like there's almost a about a centimetre difference in height as well. So like my legs aren't the same height. So it's kind of strange because I also from that can't cross my legs. So do you know, if you used to just standard cross your legs and sit up with your back straight, that's something that I can't do, and it doesn't matter how much I try. It never seems to. I never seem to be able to do it. You got any advice for that? I mean, that's a very niche sort of thing, but in terms of mobility, I mean,
yeah. And again, without having done any type of assessment or having further info, a lot of the advice I can give is very general, but that likely comes right back to hip mobility. If the hips are very restricted, it's very hard to be able to sit upright with any type of cross legs, or just in general, just sit upright with a neutral spine when the hips are tight. And I know you mentioned driving as well as walking. First, people that drive a lot have a lot of issues. That might be the worst. I said, the couch, which is terrible, but driving may be the worst type of sitting to do a lot, only because it's pretty much impossible to, like, I can sit in this chair right now, you can sit in that chair, with keeping everything even. When you sit in a car, because you're using your right leg to hit the pedals, you're going to be shifted in a way where now not only are you having those negative effects from just sitting in a normal chair, but now there's going to be some type of imbalance because your hips are now not in proper alignment. And just like I said, just using that same leg, like the tibialis anterior, the muscles on the front of the low leg get tighter on the leg that you use to drive. Maybe one, because you're leaning on one side now, some of the muscles in the low back get tighter on one side. So there's a complete imbalance. And same thing with walking. It just comes down to a lot of mobility stuff is what it comes down to with a lot of these issues that you're describing.
I mean, the thing as well with trucks is like all those vibrations all day. So if you're in not a very great truck and you're driving over some crappy sort of terrain, all that vibration along your legs and your arms. Obviously, it's all going essentially to one place, and I'd imagine that probably takes a lot of the force. If you're going over, especially some really crappy stuff, like if you was one of those Australian like outback truckers or something, and you're going over, well, those roads are nigh impossible. If you've ever seen that show, they're pretty desperate roads. I wouldn't want to go down. Well, it's just one road, I believe, but I wouldn't want to go down it. it was almost like, have you ever seen Jackass? When Steve-O
Yeah.
did that, when he did that off-road tattoo, and it was just like bum, 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 and he was in the back seat. I think it was in the first Jackass. It'd be like that. Imagine driving over that shit. How bad that would be for your back all day.
Yeah. Well, especially if you're not sitting with, again, a neutral spine. So you are rounded through the back, which puts a lot of pressure on that low back. And then you're going over massive bumps and you're not bracing the core properly. It certainly isn't going to help. So yeah, and also when you're holding the steering wheel, now your shoulders are rounded, which makes it a whole lot harder to sit upright. So driving's inevitable for pretty much everybody, or at least sitting in a car, I should say. But some people that have careers in it, it's going to happen. There are ways, of course,
sleep
to
in there as well, like those truckers.
yeah.
Sometimes they literally live in there, and I wouldn't imagine what the space is like, because they have like their own cab at the back or whatever. But I couldn't imagine that's probably very good for your back. Couldn't imagine anyway.
I can't imagine that either, being too pleasant
So,
trying to sleep in those things.
how do you normally start your day? Because I like to ask a lot of fitness people that. I like to ask a lot of people that, just how they just start their day, just how they get motivated. Just as good advice for people that are listening, because people always take stuff from other people. My pretty much well, my day's starting a bit rubbish at the minute because I'm ill. But how would you normally start your day? Is there any sort of routines that you do?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much my whole day, for the most part, from start to finish, is incredibly regimented. And so, to just get super specific, my day starts. I wake up at 5:30.
Yep.
I do what's called a breath hold. So I inhale, I exhale all the air out, and then I hold my breath. And that's there's a little bit behind it, but it's also a good indicator of how you slept and how well you recovered. It's not 100%, but the longer you're able to hold it, that means for the most part the best you slept. So I just do that to see where I'm at. Then yep, I get up, and I can also send you a link to where I learned all that stuff from.
Yeah,
But
appreciate that.
yeah, definitely. So I get up, I weigh myself, just because, again, a health person, most of us are just weighing ourselves, whether we have a goal or not. It's just good to see where our weight's fluctuating. I weigh myself, then I now we're just getting super specific, but I oil pull. So I just get some coconut oil and I swish it into my mouth for about 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
It's a more natural way. It's almost like combining flossing, brushing, and mouthwash all into one, but obviously very natural with extra virgin coconut oil. So as I'm doing that, I will then check my email, as well as a few other things I need to check for a couple other businesses I have. Once those 10 or so minutes are up, I spit out the oil. I then will read some type of health article to just continue my learning. After that, I will do some type of breath work, meditation, whatever you want to call it. And then after that, I'll do about 5 minutes of mobility work, go for about a 45-minute to an hour long walk, where I will also listen to some type of health podcast to continue that learning. Come back. If I'm shaving my head that day, I shave my head, and then I eat breakfast, and that's when my official work day starts. So that is my start to my day.
That's a really good way to do things. I'll have to look into the coconut oil. I've not heard of that one. I
got a bunch of random health hacks like that.
Yeah, I know a few, but I've not heard of that one. No, I don't think I have actually. I do bits of breathing myself. I do like the Wim Hof kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I try to do it in the mornings. I normally do like some resistance bands in the mornings, just because it's pretty good to get yourself like really just to decompress in a way as well. There's some really random cool stuff that. Well, I sat there pissing around through COVID and found some pretty ingenious things that you can do with bands that they don't really show you on the back of that stupid, or on Google Images when people search for them, because they don't really give you any way to use them when you buy them. They're just like, hey, here's five bands and some other bits. Do you ever use resistance bands?
Yeah, I do. I break up my work day And this is a great hack for people that sit as well. I know you asked earlier, but and this can look different for everybody, but for me, I work for an hour and 40 minutes straight,
Okay.
or an hour 40 to hour 45. And then to finish out that second hour for 15 to 20 minutes, I'll do some type of movement. So I have an elliptical in my living room. I'll get on and just move. I've got resistance bands as well. I'll do something with. I just getting some type of movement. Like I said, for me, it's every hour 40 to 45. But so I'll spend longer. But for some people, that could look like every 30 minutes, get up and move for 2 minutes. For some people, it looks different. But
Yeah, yeah.
I will use resistance bands throughout my day as I break up my sitting or however I'm working.
They're pretty underappreciated, resistance bands. I've found that a lot of people, when you try and go, oh, you want to get some, they're like, I'll just stick with my free weights, and you're like, oh no, trust me, you should really get some, and they're hard to bring around. Just I don't know if it's because I've seemed um, more women orientated in terms of like the fitness industry, just for like toning and shit like that. Um, but I think that a lot of people should get them. They're pretty good, and they can get pretty
Yeah,
tricky. You
and
can get some really hefty ones now as well that are pretty super up there on the pounds. I think you can get like 100-pound resistance bands.
yeah.
I'm saying resistance weights. Jesus, that was really trying to come out. Resistance bands. No, wow.
No, they are incredibly convenient because pretty much anything you can do with a dumbbell or any type of universal machine, you can, if you get creative enough,
Yep.
you can use a resistance band for. And like you said, there are some heavy duty ones. A lot of people, when they think of resistance bands, they think of the ones that you can rep out 50 resistance band
Yeah.
curls with that aren't going to do much for the legs,
10,
whatever type of
10 pound
But
jumps.
yeah, there are some heavy duty ones. So uh, yeah, I definitely I have pretty much every type of equipment that you can have, and resistance bands are definitely a good one.
Have you ever tried kettlebells?
Yeah, I love those. Are probably my favorite, to be
Yeah, yeah.
honest. Now
I know. I'm a
they're
big
not as
fan.
convenient
No.
as resistance bands, but yeah, those are my favorite. And yes, they are hard to find. They're also expensive, but I have uh, I have a few. I slowly every year try to add one or two so I can have a whole collection. But I love kettlebells.
Well, I mean that's the problem during COVID as well. Is there was a big spike in like gym equipment, and because obviously everywhere shut down, the
Hmm.
everywhere just sold out quick, and there was people sort of scalping essentially, and just they'd buy something for like $30 and sell it for 80. Just an example. And to be honest, some stuff was like that. So for a long time, I just got resistance bands because I couldn't get any free weights, and then after about well, I think it was actually this year was when I could actually just get some kettlebells again. Um, but they're amazing. They're so good. My advice to people: don't go too heavy to begin with. Um, you'll regret it. Trust me. Have you ever tried the mace bells as well? With a ball at the end on the fucking steel
Yeah.
stick.
So I don't have one of those specifically. I have Indian clubs,
Oh, they're pretty
which
cool as
are
well.
somewhat similar. I actually got them, I want to say maybe 4 months ago or so. So still fairly new. And they're the 2 pound ones, which sound super light, but
Then,
it's a lot more. It's not like a 2 pound dumbbell. Like the way they are set up, so all the weights on one
yeah,
side, you can get a lot more benefit out of them than you can. But I would love to have one of those heavier uh, mace clubs that you're talking about.
yeah. Even then, you still have to go pretty light. I mean,
Yep.
I can't remember the weight of mine now. It's lying on the floor over there. But it's pretty. I think it was like 15 kilo or something like that. I think it is. Yeah, I think it's 15 kilo. And even then, when I first got it, I was like, "Oh, you fucker!" I was like, this is a bit stupid." So it took me a while. I can only do certain things with it because of just getting used to the weight, And I need to get a lighter one. But it was like if I was going to get one anyway, you always just get something a bit bigger. But in the case of like those the Indian clubs and stuff like that, it really isn't the case. Like you can go
Yeah. You don't
super
know what
light.
they're about. When
Yeah,
you don't
no.
know what they're about, you're not prepared for like, oh, what, damn, like 30 pound or 15 kilograms. Like this is
Pretty-
intense. This is
it-
not like a 15 kilogram dumbbell.
yeah.
That's for sure.
No, a 15 kilo dumbbell's pretty easy to work around with, but that thing, it's like I couldn't imagine. I think it'd be great if you was ever training to use a sword, because it's literally like it feels that way as well. If you hold a sword, all the weight's just coming out and it's dragging you down, and that's definitely one of those things that certainly does that. I'd advise getting one, probably like a 10 kilo or something, because that's probably what I'm going to go for.
Yeah. Eventually, I'll probably, like I said, that's my biggest hobby. Really, my only hobby is just adding new workout equipment or like anything health related. I just love trying new things and buying new stuff. So I'm sure that'll eventually end up in my little basement gym I have. But I also want to just anyone listening, just to point out, like we're talking about all this equipment. You don't necessarily need equipment to
No,
be active and get a good workout in. So I just want to make that clear for people that maybe
yeah, no,
want to start some type of routine.
you really don't. I mean, even then, I've only got a couple of bits, and I've picked those up over time. But most of the time, I was in the gym, and that's the best thing to really do. If you just because you've got so much more variety, and you can pick a pretty cheap gym nowadays, certainly in the UK, and as long as you pick your times right, it's not so bad. I tend to go first thing in the morning, so as soon as I'd get up, when it was open, I'd just have a coffee. And then bang, I'll be out the door. That was pretty much it. A coffee and a smoke, out the door, straight to the gym. I'd probably spend an hour 40 there, maybe, occasionally 2 hours, if I'd do some sort of swimming or something. Then back home, and my day would start. Then I'd probably just have some breakfast, eat a bunch of crap. I need to get back in there. Even then, I've lost a little bit of weight due to the fact that I've been slacking a bit and just poor diet choices. That's another big thing. I've seen some of your posts as well about good meal replacements on like your Instagram and stuff. I think there was like a shake,
Yeah.
which was pretty cool. So even then, I need to look into a few things myself because I'm just eating so much crap. I mean, even now I'm drinking a beer, so it's I set the example good.
Are gyms open now in the UK?
They are. I'm just waiting for the influx of people.
Yeah.
Because obviously there was just going to be a big boom originally. And what I'm going to imagine is it'll even off a bit. And then people will be getting in there after Christmas again. So I'm hoping to... I'm probably just going to start back up as soon as the new year's done. I don't know. We'll see. I've got some other things I need to sort out first. So once that's done, fingers crossed, we should be back training properly.
Yeah. I know there's still. I just spoke to somebody before that. I think she lives somewhere in Canada that the gyms are only open to people that have, I guess, are fully up to date with the vaccines and boosters, everything. I know certain areas in Australia are still locked down with the gyms and stuff. So it's always interesting to see, depending on where you live, if gyms are open, what's open, what's not nowadays. It's become very different throughout the world.
Well, I think some places. I mean, I've been out to have like breakfast a few times, and you can get an app on your phone. But occasionally, well, I've not really got the app, so you just leave your mobile number. So you do your name, your mobile number, any problems, they'll give you a call. I think that's how it should be. If there's an outbreak there, then they call you. That's pretty cool. I'll quarantine. I don't really go out much anyway. So, it's very rare that I do. Even then, when I was training, it'd be just like breakfast, the gym. That's pretty much it, or lunch. Maybe the occasional odd night out or two, but even since COVID, it's just waiting for everything to sort of open back up properly and everything to be pretty much smoother. I mean, a lot of businesses are completely folded and closed down, so sometimes it's not even worth going out because some shops aren't even there. And the same for a lot of sort of family-owned restaurants, which are the best kind, rather than just chains. Nothing against them, but you go to a family-owned restaurant and you get a much better dining experience than you do in a fast food joint or whatever.
It's a different vibe for sure.
Well, even then, it's certainly a different vibe. It's definitely a different vibe. What really got you into fitness? I mean, I know you said you was doing basketball, and then obviously you sort of just went into sort of training. But what really sort of got you into it, especially in terms of doing what you're doing now with the healthy movement blueprint. What's the sort of main reasons behind that?
Yeah. So honestly, it probably just comes down to personal, like getting into personal development as a whole. Like even back then when I said I first got into lifting around like 1920, as much as I was, quote unquote into it, it was still just the typical, I go to the gym, I work out 5 days a week, and that was pretty much the extent of it, doing some stuff with my nutrition, but it was around, I'd say maybe 25 years old or so. I still remember one of my friends brought me and my other friend over his house, and he had just read some personal development book. And with the book came these worksheets that were about like where you are now,
Oh,
where you're heading in 5 years, 10 years, and all that stuff, and where you actually, based on or how you're living, where you'll actually be in 5 to 10 years based on what you want. And just doing that, it got me super into just bettering my life in every single aspect: physical health, mental health, financially, everything. So that is probably what really helped me take a deeper dive into overall health. And then I also had my own, which is seems like most people with any type of career, I had my own mobility issues, lots and lots of pain from a very young age. And so learning how to help myself get out of pain and get more mobile definitely led me to this specific path, because I know how much it sucks to
yeah,
not being able to figure out, your nagging back pain just won't go away. And it got bad for me. Honestly, in my teens, like there were times where you could, like with the slightest just touch of my knee, I would fall in crippling pain because I just had, so much inflammation in all of my joints, and I couldn't figure out what it was. I go to a physical therapist and they just do the typical cookie cutter stuff like that they will do with every single patient and not treat them as individuals. So that
what was the
definitely,
cause of the inflammation? Did they ever find out?
well, a lot of it honestly just came down to a sedentary lifestyle. I was, lifting in the gym, which I tell this to all the time. Like people will say they're active because they work out for an hour a day, but then they sit on their ass
For the rest of it.
like I was doing for the other 14, 15 hours they're awake. And it's like, well, you're not that active. You're active for 1 hour. You're very sedentary outside of that. So just sitting for so much, that played a huge factor. So I was in not good position. So then when I started working out and I didn't know what the heck I was doing, my form wasn't great, which just exacerbated problems in my form. I was a very, very, very stressed individual growing up, which stress can actually lead to physical pain as well. So it was just a lot of different things that ultimately led to. And I, to an extent, I still deal with a lot of the stuff. Like while I don't deal with as much pain anymore, I still have very stiff hips. So I'm still, working on myself as I help other people, but I've come a very long way to figuring it all out. Well, some of that's through education, some of that's also just through trial and error.
Well, I think they're the best kind of people that can help people, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Because,
definitely.
unless you've physically been through the problems, and, there's a lot of people that just put out those motivational things, little fucking, memes or whatever. And most of those people don't do shit, and people, for some stupid reason, a lot of people just relate to them. Maybe it's just because it's a meme. Um, but if you was to probably meet that person in real life, you'd be like, man, this person sucks, and you'd be like, why are they posting all these memes and if you find out about their lifestyle and everything's been pretty sweet as well, you're like, I don't know, I'm not really feeling this. Whereas sometimes when you talk to people, you can literally go, oh, I know what this person's gone through. You're like, oh, I get it. And they're the people that should be helping people because of their life experiences, and just because, like, I'm not saying all of them should, because some of them can't. A lot of people can express themselves better than others. but I think that they are the best people that should be helping people, are the people that do go through the shit, you know, and that have a genuine, you know, narrative that they can say about it, you know.
No, definitely. I'll scroll through Instagram sometimes and I'll come across somebody doing some type of, whether it's a workout or a lot of it will be like mobility stuff, like, oh, like heal back pain with this mobility routine, and a lot of the comments will be, uh, well, if I was able to do the moves like you, like I wouldn't have back pain, or you clearly have never dealt with back pain. So that's why if you watch my videos, I don't like look like the most flawless, elegant person doing a lot of the stuff I do.
Yeah.
It's because I'm still, maybe not as much as other people, but I'm still, you know, learning. Not, yes, I'm always learning, but I'm still dealing with those certain issues. So while I still can do certain things well enough so people can actually see the proper way to do it, it doesn't look like, you know, the most flexible, mobile person in the world, like a lot of these people that are doing it.
Yeah, I mean, some of those people though, they're great specimens of people, and I think a lot of it's perform enhancing. You know, there's probably some roids behind some of that shit. There's certainly a lot of cutting roids as well. You know, I'd imagine so. I mean, some of those people, it probably is natural, but I don't really think so. A lot of HGH is one of the latest things as well. Have you ever looked into roids? I mean,
No, not a.
no,
It's never been a.
I always ask. I always ask anyone that's trained. I have. I'm not going to lie. My frame was a piece of shit before I tried them. The only reason that I tried them was because I'd also tried every other drug under the sun and got off them all, and was like, well, if I've tried all them and they were pretty fucking deadly, let's actually try something that, you know, might be somewhat beneficial in a way. And, you know, it kind of was for a little bit, but, you know, it was what it was. I just thought, yeah, again, it was just me sort of ticking one off my box, so to speak, because, you know, we've all been in fucked up lifestyles. Some completely different than others. But it was just one of them. I was like, I might as well try it. You never know. And it also kind of then got me into supplements as well, because I was like, well, I can kind of get some of that stuff from like this, and not all of it, but, you know, just even the simple shit like creatine. You know, creatine's great. It's amazing. Completely underrated.
Yeah. No, it's you know, for the most part, my goals have always been related to athletic ability, or like I said, mobility, getting out of pain. So getting, you know, not that that stuff can't help with some of those, especially with the athletic ability, but it's never been a real goal of mine. As most people use that stuff for aesthetic purposes and, you know, getting huge or getting strong. And I actually have a very small frame as well. I've been, as I said, into fitness for over 10 years or around 10 years now. And even as a coach, like I'm a fairly small guy. I'm lean and I'm strong for my weight, but I'm not the biggest guy. But again, I'm not trying to coach people that want to, you know, be 250 pounds, 6% body fat or anything. Yeah, yeah. So it's never, like I said, it's never really come to my mind of taking any of that stuff or looking into it.
Yeah, body fat's one of them. I mean, before I started drinking, I had very little body fat. You know, I was 5'7" as well. I'm still 5'7", unless I've shrunk. I hope not. But you know, I'm like 5'7", and I'm like, you know, I was pretty scrawny-ish. Again, I probably didn't help the fact that I did loads of drugs. That probably was a massive contributing factor. Mm-hmm. Probably also to my height as well. I'd imagine, because I started at a young age. So part of me does hate myself and go, man, if you hadn't done all that, you could have been maybe about 5'9", maybe. But you know, after doing all that, I was like, felt so shitty. Like I say, I was just like, fuck it. But there's some really good supplements out there that you can get. I'll send you a list after. You know, there's probably some really good shit that you can get in the States that you can't even really get here, and it's all completely legal. You can buy it all off Amazon. There's some really good stuff. You know, if you're into looking into supplements, some of it's really beneficial. A lot of it, especially for stuff like COVID as well. You know, that just builds up your immune system. I've got some antioxidants shit on there. I've got a whole mess of stuff on my list. Do you ever take many supplements? Just like vitamin B12 or K2 or?
Yeah, no, I take a good amount. It's mainly for just overall health, especially immunity. Now, I can go through the list if you like. It's one of those things I get a little cautious about talking about. I can of course talk about it, but
Yeah.
I just being a health coach, like of course I'm not legally allowed to like advise certain like meal plans or like actual supplement list. So I get a little bit cautious, but just going quickly over what I take. And again, it's just general health stuff, which I encourage people to look into. Again, especially now, a lot of this stuff is stuff to build up the immune system, but vitamin D slash K2. It's important for people if they do take a vitamin D supplement to get one that has vitamin K in it as well. Vitamin C, zinc, and then some of these, I don't know if you want to call them supplements or not, but I do take a mushroom blend, which has a few different mushrooms in it, and all these are great for the immune system.
Really
A bee product, yeah, which has all different, not just honey, but propolis, royal jelly, yeah, every type of bee product. And then off the top of my head, I think that's it. But yeah, every single one I take is really just to build up my immune system.
Yeah, I mean that's all I did. It was strange because, I mean, like I say, I'm not anyone to advise people, but the only way in which I can is I've gone from a bit of a complete mess to a semi-healthy person. At one point I was told I couldn't have kids, and I have two. It's like, there's some sort of there's something there. But again, I don't really advise people, but I just go, hey, this is what I take.
Yeah.
I also, I also drink and smoke. Personal choice. Smoking, I'm going to try and cut down at some point, but I just don't want to get back into vaping. It's just it's too dangerous, man. They put so much shit in there nowadays. It's just not worth it. Have you ever seen any of the TikTok videos? Have you ever been on TikTok?
Yeah, I used to put up some content on there, but I stopped for now. But yeah, I've been on TikTok.
Have you ever seen any of the ridiculous exercising videos on there where people are just absolutely a fucking mess and they're trying to? Well, there's one specifically. I wished I'd been able to pull it up, but it was somebody that was doing exercising on a bed. They was doing their positions on a bed, literal yoga positions. Which, well, that's not good for one fucking many reasons. First of all, you're exercising on a bed. There's kind of for sleeping. I can't imagine that all them weird pressure points when this person was spread eagled and pushing themselves down. I can't imagine that was very good for the joints. There's some really fantastic ones. I'd highly advise people out there if they want to have something that they can laugh at for a good few hours. Like check out TikTok for fake exercises. You'll get some good ones.
They got them on Instagram too. I've seen them on Instagram, Facebook. Like a lot of the videos that are on TikTok end up on the other.
Oh yeah.
As well. So yeah, there's some really great ones that like you'll see people on the cable machines at gyms like jumping up with the cable and like shooting up in the air, like hanging upside down like Spider-Man. There are some good ones that definitely give you a chuckle.
You get some pretty dangerous ones, especially with people dropping weights. Or there was one that was circulating a while ago. There was some guy and he tipped like the squat rack over. I could put it on there, and the whole squat rack and him just went backwards. It was like, whoa! You can't imagine that. Or the people that are doing like a leg press and their whole fucking leg just goes back on itself. Oof, they're horrible to watch. I'm not gonna lie, but they're probably not for the people to laugh at unless you're into that thing.
No, there's the videos that are just people putting up surge amount of weight on whatever they're doing and just complete ego lifting. Then there's the ones that people are just probably need a little bit of guidance. They don't know what they're doing. And then there's the people that try to do too much and they'll be doing a squat with like, even if it's just like a 45 on each side, on a stability ball. And while, but the thing is, they'll see like a professional athlete do it. By the way, still probably not the smartest thing to do with the risk reward ratio. But then they start doing it and they, 80% of the time you do it, you're good, but you're going to do it and eventually get hurt, which unfortunately, when they're putting those videos out and they don't end up as a fail, a lot of people that are new to the gym might see that and think, okay, well, that's what I need to do
Yeah.
to get
To get jacked.
agility
Yeah.
increases or something like that. But just sticking to basics for people that are looking for some guidance is definitely the right way to go. None of that crazy stuff.
Yeah, people are always coming up with some wild shit. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Even then, during COVID with those resistance bands, I was like, "Can I do this?" And I was like, "Nah, that's not gonna work." There was a lot of trial and error. It helps as well if you've just got a random wall hook. Like if you just get a wall hook, you can almost treat your resistance bands like a cable machine, and that's pretty handy as long as you get the right resistance and the right sort of posture and stance and stuff. But that's quite beneficial. It's like £2. You can just I'd bolt it into the wall. I wouldn't just screw it. Did you ever see any of the? There was people selling stuff like that. It was like a home cable system where they would screw it into their ceiling or on the wall, and then they'd just put like a cable pulley that'd go down to a bunch of like dumbbell plates, and then they'd just pull it up. You ever seen those?
You talk about those cable machines, right?
Yeah, they're like the cable machines, but
I got one.
Screw them in. Oh, really? Whoa!
Yeah,
what do you think
I
about
have
it?
one that you don't even need to screw in though. It's just you just wrap it around something. It's safe as long as you're using it correctly. That's actually great too because it's small enough where you can bring it wherever you want. But as long as you have a weight to attach to the bottom, it's just it's a single pulley that it's just a makeshift cable machine. Like I said, there's very little thing.
What do you attach yours to? What do you mean wrap it round? What do you hook it to?
So okay, so you have the actual cable, and then you have whatever the thing that it spins on.
Yeah, the wheel.
Yeah, and then that wheel is attached to a Velcro strap,
Okay.
which is attached to another Velcro strap. So you can attach the top one to anything that isn't going to move easily. So I have a boxing stand in my gym that has a pull-up bar at the top, so I can attach it to that. I have a few different things I can attach it to, but you can also attach it to things closer to the ground that again are heavy enough where it's not going to move whatever weight you're using. So yeah, they're very convenient as long as you have somewhere to put them, and if you get creative enough, just like the resistance bands, you can find places to use it effectively.
I might have to look into one. I mean, I've seen just some. When I looked at it, I was like, ooh, I was a bit skeptical in the fact that it's. I mean, the ones I seen, I did see a couple of videos where people were being stupid. Just really stacking it up. Putting like 40, 50 kilo on there. And then it's like bolted into it's put into the drywall. It's not even put into like it's not even put into a stud. It's literally just like a couple of plugs, and then it just comes tumbling down with a bunch of concrete and drywall. It's not even in concrete. So I was like, no, I'm not going to really get one of them. But now I've heard one with Velcro.
I can assure you, not only do I trust the one I use, but I use it smart enough where you will not see me on one of those failed compilation videos with it.
You're not you're not filming your exercises with it. I don't know. You could be a good angle. You could get the next 1 million on TikTok.
That's the thing about TikTok. It's any video can go viral.
I'll admit I'm gonna be on there at some point. I'm half on there, but I just don't post. But it's just super funny, just because you just never know what you're gonna come across. So, what other advice have you got for people out there that have mobility issues? Say if sometimes when I'm sitting in a car for a long period of time, it's only ever in a car, but I'll get stiff knees. They'll get really stiff, and it doesn't matter if I take cod liver oil or fish oil. What sort of advice would you give for sort of that?
Yeah, so I'm going to give advice for two different subsets because unfortunately I do have to wrap this up in about 5 minutes.
Yep, that's all good.
Yeah. So this first one is just for people that have some type of mobility restriction. This is going to be very general advice, but people that have sedentary lives. So the three things I like to say is one I mentioned earlier is I like to go off of for every 20 to 30 minutes you sit, just get up and move for 1 to 2 minutes. If you can break up your sitting and do that again, 1 to 2 minutes every 20 to 30 minutes. So that ends up being, however long, 30 minutes throughout the entire workday. You will see changes over time instead of just constantly sitting in that same position. That's number one. Number two, in addition to that movement, or if you, for whatever reason, don't feel you can move, just change the position in which you're sitting in. While sitting in general constantly isn't great, what makes it so much worse is when we're in that same exact position for hours long. Because what happens is our body recognizes, oh, our hip flexors are now very short. Well, we're always here. Let's just make this our natural state as far as how long the hip flexors are. So that's why when a lot of people sit for so long, they develop an anterior pelvic tilt, which is just the hips tilting forward, and then they get that arch in their low back, that Donald Duck butt, people like to call it, because our hips are just naturally in that shortened state. So just switching up how you're sitting, that can be 10 minutes you're sitting normally. 10 minutes after that, you cross one leg over the other. 10 minutes after that, cross the other one. Maybe you start kneeling for 10 minutes, just always switching it up every 10 to 30 minutes. And then the last one, and I got this from a company called the Foot Collective, which is all about healthy feet. For every hour that you sit in the day, stretch your hips in that standard half kneeling hip flexor stretch that most people know. If you don't know it, just Google hip flexor stretch. For every 1 hour you sit, just stretch the hips for 1 minute. So if you sit for 10 hours a day, do 10 minutes of stretching on each hip at the end of that day or throughout the day, in the morning, whatever it is. So if you can break up the sitting that you do throughout the day with movement, if you can change your sitting positions and then you stretch your hips for that rule, 1 hour is 1 minute of stretching. I'm sure, depending on what the issue is, I should say, if it's just due to type of mobility restrictions, you will get some benefits from that. It's not going to clear everything up, but it will help a bit. And then just general health recommendations I would give, or advice for people, given the state that the world is in right now with everything going on. I would say, one, focus on your breathing. Just to quickly go into this real quick, a lot of people will breathe into their chest through their mouth, and it's very fast breathing. That will trigger what is called our sympathetic nervous system. A lot of people know it as our fight or flight response, which is not a bad thing unless you're constantly in that, because you're just in a heightened sense. You're more tense, your cortisol levels go up, adrenaline spikes. So you don't want to be in that all the time. Rather focus on breathing in through the nose, into the stomach area, and just relaxed breathing. If you do that, your body will relax, and that'll be good for your overall health. So focus on the breathing, focus on getting good quality sleep, not just amount of sleep, but the quality sleep. Just quick tips I have for that is sleep, keep the time you sleep, go to bed and wake up, as consistent as you can. That's number one. Number two, sleep in as dark of a room as you can. And number three, probably my favorite one, is wear blue light blocking glasses, which are just those orange or red tinted glasses, for about 30 minutes to an hour before bed. That will help you set yourself up for better quality sleep. So work on the breathing, work on the sleep. Some quick nutrition advice: just drink enough water, which I don't want to put a number on it because obviously it's hard to track for people, but just try to get, every couple hours, just drink a big glass of water. That'll get you on the right path. Or whatever you're drinking, if you don't think you're drinking enough, just drink more. So those are that's a good one for water. And then just
people don't
obviously you don't have to. Yeah, no, that's a big one for a lot of people. But then just on the food side, again, just giving a quick, easier tip to follow. I wouldn't say just try to take out all the sweets and treats people like, but just whatever you eat now, try to replace 1 or 2 servings of whatever treat you have with some type of fruit or vegetable. That's a good place to get started. And then, we already went over the exercise one. So, or the movement, I should say. So if you can work on your breathing, work on the quality of sleep you get, work on those quick nutrition tips with getting water and more vegetables and fruits, and then just get that movement in throughout the day, you'll be healthier in a month than you are now.
Well, listen, have you got any quick recommendations for people? Podcast wise, you said you listened to a couple of health podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Any
So,
recommendations?
Oh yeah, my favorite one, and this is more for total health and wellness. This is my most trusted guy when it comes to anything health related. His name is Sean Stevenson. That's Sean spelt SHAWN. Sean Stevenson. His podcast is called The Model Health Show. He is one of the smartest people I know, and he's one of the most trusted sources. As you mentioned in the beginning, it's hard to get clear information. Everything's very politicized nowadays. And you can honestly, there's a lot of doctors and scientists and whatever that are, giving recommendations based on who's paying them. So this is a guy I personally trust. I would definitely recommend people check out his show, the Model Health Show, Sean Stevenson.
Well, listen, it's been very informative. It's been very fun having you on. Where can people check you out, Boomer?
Yeah, so I don't have a particular website right now, but you can just check out my social medias, which are the Healthy Movement Blueprint. Search that on Facebook, search that on Instagram, and I will pop up Healthy Movement Blueprint, or just search my name, Boomer Perrault. And on Facebook, that's actually where I post a lot of my stuff. So just give me a friend request there. And on Instagram, I don't post anything about or health related stuff on my personal page, but you can get to my health account from my personal page. So Healthy Movement Blueprint, Boomer Perrault. You can find all my stuff there.
Well, listen, it's been super fun having you on. This has been the Posthuman Podcast. We've been here today with Boomer Perrault, and I'll catch you next time, people. Thank you very much.